Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. This is Noah.
And this is Jesse.
All right, episode 90. 80.
The big 90.
90. Okay, wow. I almost screwed it up because last week was 89. 89, dude. This is
89, dude. I don't know if that's the same.
I don't think so.
Plus 20. That sounds like a giant.
All right. Well, this is I guess this is our Thanksgiving episode here. So you are you brought two big guns here from the Dalmore. We got the Dalmore 14, or the Dalmore Alexander III. And you're gonna flip a coin here, and we'll see which one we will actually be drinking this evening. From there, we'll go into our shout outs and get it togethers. And we'll follow that up with our restaurant review of this gem of a restaurant that you can't find anywhere called the Olive Garden.
It's perfect for Thanksgiving,
right?
I definitely see tons of veterans and Indians going there.
And then we have our Smarter Challenge being the best of Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, just really, watching a couple movies, seeing what we like, doing a little bit of research on his history. And, his lifespan was pretty fantastic.
Scotch Reviewed.
All right. Now, I do believe we said on the last episode, heads, it's the Dalmore King Alexander III. Tails, it is the Dalmore 14. So one is actually finished through 6 different types of casks or barrels, and the other one is just specialized in sherry casks. With that, no need to call it. Let's try not to break any glass with this silver dollar, and heads it is. Dude.
No way. Get out of here. Is it really heads?
Yeah.
It's not a 2-headed coin, is it?
No, man, they had a tail too.
No, it does. Okay. Silver dollar, right?
I polished it, yeah.
Is that Kennedy on there? Is that who
That
it is? Or is it Eisenhower?
Is Eisenhower. It's an Eisenhower dollar as he rolls off the table.
We want Ike. We want Ike.
All right, so
We did want Ike on this one, I think.
we really did. I think it was quite perfect for a Thanksgiving celebration. For us, a slightly early Thanksgiving celebration, but well worth it. So the first thing to say about this Dalmore King Alexander III is the presentation. This is a pretty fantastic box. Not going to shy away from this.
No, the box is way cool, dude.
Yeah, you got the
love the presentation.
Square, the mat with the chrome.
I love how the stag head just pops.
And then you open that bad boy up.
Oh yeah, that painting or whatever that picture is in there.
Yeah, the Fury of the Stag, Benjamin West, National Galleries of Scotland. I'm just, if this doesn't wet your whistle and any number of other things, you're not right. So with that,
Alexander III, I'm excited for it. I think they are too.
man, can't go wrong with the bottle. Can't go wrong with the box.
Oh, maybe not. You can still maybe see my head a little bit.
Can't go wrong with the box. This is a pretty fantastic box. It really is.
It really is.
It's definitely dominant to this situation. The bottle itself, as you mentioned, chrome label, chrome stag. I'm calling it chrome. It may just be polished metal of some other type.
Chrome works for me.
Much like the Macallan, the Dalmore comes with their hologram label. Man, we should go into some history before I open this, because this is a special Scotch.
Well, I mean, as far as I remember, we've talked about the history once before in some of our earlier episodes, but it was founded way back in 1263. At that time, King Alexander III was basically saved by the chief of Clan Mackenzie. As he's getting attacked by a stag or something like that. And then that's how they came up with the emblem, right? Because King Alexander III said, here, this can be you guys' emblem with a 12-point stag. Is that kind of like what you're going after?
That's the basic, their grant from the king to use the stag. The distillery itself was built, or I should say they became owners of the distillery in 1867. So the Dalmore distillery, the descendants of the clan became the owners in 1867.
And I guess over 100 years ago, they had like a special like relationship that they got with the Gonzales Bias sherry group.
Yes.
And so they're the only ones who actually get to use their casks, right?
They have sole rights to those casks. And one of the things that's you got to understand, if you don't know much or anything about sherry, it is often aged for quite some time, much like many fine liquors. And with that, some of their sherries are aged 30 plus years in those casks. And those are the ones that Dalmore takes and uses for their special spirits.
And another thing here to note about the Dalmore here is they are actually going under construction right now. And they're currently not doing any tours until 2024. So if you're curious about it, if you do go to Scotland and you want to take a tour of that distillery, you will have to wait until 2024 to do that. However, they do have a waiting list, so you can sign up on the email saying that you're interested if you want to go in 2024. Did you say what the 6 different casks were?
I have not. Do you want to jump in?
No, go ahead.
All right. So with this, it is initially matured in white oak ex-bourbon casks, so American casks. The liquid is apportioned there afterwards between small batches of ex-bourbon casks, Salem.
Sounds, you nailed it.
Olorosa, sherry casks, Madeira barrels, Marsala casks, port pipes, and Cabernet Sauvignon wine barriques.
So excited.
Yeah, this one's going to be dangerous. So when nobody hears from me tomorrow, do not be afraid. I had a great night and a great life. Life is great if you're drinking the Dalmore King Alexander III for your Thanksgiving celebration.
People should be hearing that from me tomorrow morning. I have to be places.
I do too. In the bottom of this bottle, we are going to open this up. Dalmore always does a wonderful job. Like I don't think I've ever seen a Dalmore bottle that wasn't done well. Foils that weren't done well. The holograms, the stags on the front. We got to make sure here. Real cork, but I'm a little worried. I think they went plastic on us.
Plastic on the cap.
Yeah, but we're gonna give them 9 out of 10 for the stag on the head.
All right, stag on the head. It's a stag night. Is anyone getting married? We need a stag party.
If a drop of this falls on the table and you see me licking upon it, do not be afraid. It's okay. I just could not let one drop.
Ooh, I like this dark amber color.
Man.
I'm actually really excited to try this.
You and I both.
All week I was like, man, why does he have to flip a coin? Can't we just do that one?
All right. Couple things to remember with Thanksgiving. Make sure you appreciate things like fine ass scotch. Life is great.
Life is great.
Cheers.
Warp speed. This Dalmore Alexander III is incredible. Just to start off, right? We've always talked about like how we like a certain type of color to the scotches that we drink. And really, I don't, it's been a year since we had the Macallan number 6, but honestly, I think this might be darker than that one. This has a nice, good, dark amber color to it, which obviously I think this does play from like the the Bordeaux like oak chips that are being used in it, as well as like the sherry casks and their American ex bourbon casks and stuff like that. And so that charred oak from that is definitely you see it prevalent here in this color, this dark amber, and I think with that it helps bring out so many like flavors and complexities to this Scotch that it is it's a phenomenal Scotch. And I think it's definitely worth every penny if you can get your hands on a bottle.
Or two.
With that being said, the aroma that I'm picking up here is I'm getting like raspberry, along with some orange zest and some nuttiness. And there's like, I know you said this before, but how does creamy have a smell? Because it has a creamy smell to it as well. And I just don't understand like how like when you smell something like that smells creamy, because like I don't know what creamy is supposed to smell like, but that's what it smells like. And I'm also getting like hints of a tropical fruit in there, as well as rose petals. I think I'm getting like a little bit of like a rose petal type of smell and aroma in there as well. And not to be let down just by from the aromas I'm picking up from this wonderful Scotch, but I'm also like on my palate, I'm picking up like a creamy vanilla with sweet berries, like a Grand Marnier oranginess. Like I know in the notes there it says like there's like orange zest from them, but it doesn't taste like normal orange zest. It almost tastes more along the lines that you get from a Grand Marnier when you add like, you know, like how when you get like a really good margarita and then they use as like a splash of Grandma, the Grand Marnier in it. I mean, that's where it's at. I mean, that's like it has that kind of like that same kind of orangey flavor, also with like hints of almond. I'm getting like that hint of almond. And I think that's where that smell of nuttiness I got from originally from the nose. And then on the finish, here, I'm getting like slight cinnamon with caramelized orange. And hints of ginger there, because like there's that spiciness, but it's not like a heavy spice or anything like that. And I really get like kind of a sweetness on my finish too, and it's just it's like a medium body. It's not a heavy bodied Scotch, and like last night you and I were trying or revisiting was it Airstone's Sea Cask, and we were mentioning like at least I was mentioning how like the body just kind of dissipates right there at the mid palate. This does not do that. This is like a medium bodied, and it coats your mouth very well, and it hits the front palate, it hits the mid palate, it hits the back palate with the finish, and wow. I really like. I thank you for like throwing this up as one of the options here, and I really can't thank you enough for that, because this is a treat. It really is, and this is a Scotch once again. I would probably hoard, and like
it's sinner time,
and that's hoarded for me and good friends who would enjoy the Scotch. But this is also one, if I'm going to like a black tie affair or like a really nice like gathering at someone's home, this is a bottle I could definitely take there and share to, to not be outshined by somebody else there. You know, this is a decent bottle that you can definitely share with that type of like, if you want to hobnob and like rub some elbows and stuff. But if I'm gonna go like smoke cigars with buddy, like just like my average Joe buddies and or play poker night. No, I'm not taking it to that. Not at all. It's definitely going to be just for me, or or a couple close friends that could appreciate a very fine Scotch, or to like a high end affair. This is definitely a thumbs up. I know you said it's like in the $300 range, and it's worth every penny. It really is. So if you do have the opportunity and you see this out there, I highly recommend getting it.
I think this is the first time I've ever been at a loss for words with a Scotch. It is definitely the first time ever I have felt underdressed drinking a Scotch. I really
If you do, I really feel underdressed, which is, I always dress down from what you dress anyways, but yeah, even more so here.
I feel like this is a tuxedo scotch. This is definitely something, as you mentioned, you bring out for great friends, special events, and everyday occasions like for us. So
Right?
really, truly almost at a loss for words. So you got to go back to the sextuple wood aging processes used for this scotch. So you've got your ex-bourbon casks, essentially, from Kentucky. You got America in there. You've got your Matusalem Oloroso sherry casks, your Madeira barrels. So you've got Spain in there. You got your port and your Cabernet Sauvignon.
International orgy.
Yeah, this is something that's very special. And the one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that all of those are then brought together again in a sherry butt to harmonize the flavors one last time. Trying to not get off track about how amazing this scotch is for me right now. The color. This is a summer dream. I'm talking about you went on a 2-week vacation to places like Spain and sat on a nude beach and you come out a little burnt. This is beautiful. The color is amazing. Definitely inviting and enticing. Man, you get to the nose and the nose is enthralling. Tom Ford needs to partner with the Dalmore here and make his next cologne, I think. If you haven't heard, and this is a name, not just a curse word, Tom Ford makes a fragrance and a whole line of products fucking fabulous. And that is what this scotch is ultimately. It is amazing. So that's not me cussing. That's me just, reading a name off of a Tom Ford fragrance, by the way. Both men and women love to wear it. You go from this beautiful color on the nose. For me, it is special because it is that creamy berry scent right off the bat, and mine is kind of along the lines of raspberry, maybe a hint of blackberry and black cherry. So definitely darker berries for me. I'm guessing that's coming from the cab. On the palate, there is immediate orange citrus zest. But again, they have managed to make this zest creamy, so it's not pungent like lemon zest on a risotto. It is creamy like orange zest on the perfect dessert, on that medium to dark chocolate cake with a little orange zest on it, just to spice it up. And that is a part of what's in here, is that chocolate. It's hidden, it's layered. So is vanilla, not the cheap vanilla, the vanilla bean, mild hints, but absolutely prevalent. And then you mentioned this, you get that almond flavor. And all along, this is a malt. Like, there is absolutely malt there. You can hints of barley. Fantastic. The finish. At first, I couldn't figure out what it was because it almost sounds offensive to say, but on the finish. So you go from this beautiful color to an inviting, berry, creamy hint of chocolate and vanilla nose. Those flavors all transcend, and in comes the Grand Marnier orange that you mentioned in the palate, coming through with malt and almonds, and in the finish. And it is so amazingly layered. Hints of white pepper and one of my all-time favorites, oak. Not too dry, but that creamy flavor that coated the tongue is now going dry enough where you know that this is oak, and it's white oak. It's absolutely finishing this roller coaster joyride that doesn't necessarily go and need to be the fastest and the tallest roller coaster, just the best. Is something I would absolutely take to, I mean, if I'm going to a bachelor party, you're one of my 5 friends. If, this is something I'd share with my father. This is that special. Something I share with those 5 friends. Noah, absolutely sharing that and this with you for Thanksgiving. This is our Thanksgiving episode, and this is much like the Macallan Edition 6 a year ago. This is worthy of this holiday.
It's more than worthy.
I agree with you, though, unless it's like a very special kickback poker party. This is not coming along with me. If this is one where you bring a lady and she's wearing maybe a Jessica Rabbit dress or something fantastic, and I'm wearing a suit, yes, this is then this comes along, because that's a night you never want to forget, and unless you lose the poker game.
It's time for our shout outs.
First shout out. All right, Aiden. Cheers. Awesome job, young man, making the JV team this year, your sophomore year at Cherokee Trail High School. That is fantastic. Second shout out, and this could really, interestingly enough, go on forever, because there's a lot I'm grateful for and a lot of things I'm proud of. Second shout out, Mila. Awesome job. Making it happen for yourself, flying over to LA, seeing Post Malone in concert with your friend, and then also being mature enough to come back and let your brother know, man, you wish he was there next to you. And that's a pretty fantastic thing. So I'm also, that's a good shout out to her as well, because Mila, you're there. You've made it pretty far when your couple year younger brother is someone you'd want to go to a memorable concert, a lifelong memory. That is amazing. I wonder why she didn't wish I was there. Might have gotten a little too loud. I'm a lot of fun. Maybe. Last one is we've cinched it all up pretty much, and truly now. Red Bull, Max Verstappen, awesome job. Another great year. Formula One world champion. It was a fun year to watch the races. It was an interesting year, although I do wonder, with everything that happened in the last couple of races, how the true unfold will come next year, when you might be leaning on your own teammate wanting a couple extra points.
Obviously I have the normal ones of like, I'm grateful for my job and the position that I have, my family and my friends. Just to kind of get that out of the way real quickly. Like, there's like, as you said, there's like too many to list there. But hopefully all of you know that I am truly grateful for all of you. To really step into like what my real true shout outs are for this, and not those aren't true ones, but the ones I like to share here on the show is, first and foremost, I'm grateful for you for once again taking the leap of faith, or not even the leap of faith, but just well, maybe it is, or maybe it's just the courage to like do this venture with me, because I was looking for someone to jump into a podcast with, and so I will always be grateful for you for jumping in with this venture with me. I'm super grateful for all the people who, like, all of our audience, our listeners and the viewers that we have. We did this, this is something like that we both enjoy. And being that, there's people out there who like listen to us and watch us. I think that's phenomenal. If you watch us for a few minutes, or if you watch us for a much longer period of time, I think it's incredible that there's people out there who are willing to do that. So thank you to all of you. I also want to thank, and this is a new one here, we never had this before, but thank you to the one Russian person who listens to us. I don't know how long you listen to our show, but it did pop up in one of our stat categories that someone from Russia listened to us. So it's kind of interesting that we're kind of, reaching out there and someone's listening to us. And, I have no problem with anybody from throughout any part of the world. We're all humans. We're all here to live. And I think most of us want the same thing in life. We just want to be left alone and live our best lives, I want to thank the guy who created heated steering wheels and heated seats, because like here in Colorado, it's been cold the last like a couple of days here in this past week, and getting in the car when it's like 11 degrees outside and you have a heated steering wheel or heated bucket seats, you just kind of melt into that chair there, and you just like it's I don't know, it's a great feeling having those heated bucket seats with the heated steering wheel. For many, many years, we've probably all survived without anything like that, but it is kind of a nice luxury to have. So I just want to thank that person or people who created that.
I'm not against organic or all natural or any of that, but my only get it together is for the guy who goes and spends $200 on that turkey for Thanksgiving. Like, what are you getting out of a super lean, organic, free-range turkey that you don't get out of a Butterball?
My get it together here is for the Denver Broncos.
Oh, no.
Like, here you basically like sold out your future to pick up Russell Wilson, giving up 2 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round draft picks, and some other draft picks. And then you get this new coach who's supposed to be this offensive whiz, and you are terrible.
Restaurant Review.
We went to the one and the only Olive Garden. This one in particular in Highlands Ranch at County Line and University. Interesting area. We went on a night and there was no wait, which was interesting. I've visited this location previously. There was a wait in the past. I don't know if this is the economy or something else is changing. The world is definitely changing, but the restaurant was scantily clad with guests. So we went in and we went with it pretty simple. We wanted something that was decent food. It's a cold week here in Colorado. Wanted something that was decent food. I don't think either of us would consider this super high-end Italian dining, but it was good. And it was actually kind of fun. So we started with a nice Chianti. Fava beans and some brain, sweetbreads. So I started with a nice Chianti, and then I had the soup and salad. And the soup of choice for me was the gnocchi and chicken, or chicken and gnocchi, which I thought was fantastic. Honestly, for $12.99 soup and salad, breadsticks, of course, it was a value meal. And I was not let down. Though, when your half of a bottle of inexpensive wine costs more than your meal, you're probably getting off pretty cheap.
Definitely.
How about yourself?
Here's the thing. When people go to review restaurants, I don't think many of them really go to review like too many like chain restaurants or even fast food restaurants, and probably for a reason. But the nice thing about a chain restaurant is typically the quality of food you're going to get, and kind of like what to expect when you see like an Olive Garden. They're all pretty similar, how they're set up and how they look when you go inside of into an Olive Garden. So it does give you that kind of warm, familiar feeling going into the restaurant. And like you, I did get the soup and salad. I'm a huge fan of their soup and salad. I just love the salad dressing. And my soup of choice is the Toscana, that has like little pieces of Italian sausage with potato. And the one thing I did notice between my soup and your soup, because I got the second go around of the soups, I got the same one that you did, which is that chicken and gnocchi, right?
Yep.
And the chicken and gnocchi soup is a lot more thicker and creamier, where the Toscana is more brothy. And so I think if you're looking for a soup that's like a comfort food, but if you're looking for a more brothy one, I think the Toscana is a better way to go. But if you're looking for something a little bit more hearty, I think that chicken and gnocchi one is a better option. But In any case, the salad, it never lets you down.
No.
The soups don't let you down. And the service, in this particular one, sometimes when you go to chain restaurants, service can be really spotty or really terrible. But I thought our waiter did a fairly decent job. He wasn't like a great server, but he wasn't a terrible server, so it didn't take away from the experience either. So obviously they spent some time with their training staff to make sure that they were competent and they did their job decently. So it didn't add to the visit, but it didn't take away from the visit. So that's something that's really nice when you go to a restaurant as well. I guess star wise or whatever, or point wise, the food is what you expect. I mean, you know what it is, you know what to expect. I enjoy the food there. I'm going to give it a 7. The ambiance, it is what it is. I'm going to give that a 6 because, there's some Italian restaurants that are way nicer. There's some that are way, way worse, but I think it's above average. So I'm going to give it a 6. And as far as like the service, I'm going to give that about a 7. Like I said, there's nothing there that put it above and beyond, but nothing that really took away from it either. So I'm going to give that a 7. And would I go take a first date there? No. I mean, if it was like something kind of like nonchalant and I wasn't really like into the girl, but I was like, yeah, I'll go on a date with you.
Trying to get into the girl.
Yeah. then I mean, maybe I would take her to like something like that, but that's not really typically the place I would want to go to. Now, if I lived in like a small town, like in, let's say like when I used to live in St. George, there's not a whole lot of options out there. I mean, there's some couple nice places, but they're like really nice. And if you're kind of looking for something in between, like really nice and like a better than bad, that, then maybe sure, okay, Olive Garden. But like in a large metropolitan area like Denver, that's a no. Would I meet a friend there? If we're just gonna if we're catching up on old times or something, sure, maybe. It's something I'd go there just if I want something that I want something that's decent and something reliable. That's the reason why I would go there. And if I'm really craving soup, like I do during the winter time, that's another reason why I'll go there. So overall, I'm gonna give it a 6.5, and it is what it is. It's what you expect, and it's reliable.
All right, I'm going to start my final review of it with a star scale. And I think this is important and fair to do as well. So you have your 1-star restaurants, which I would say most likely are your Taco Bells or your McDonald's, your fast food. You have your 5-star restaurants, which for me would be Il Mulino, Las Vegas, Delmonico's, your steakhouses, always. Some of these super fine restaurants. This is somewhere in between. I'm going to say right around the 3-star range. It's not fast food, but it is good food. And so for me, the star is falling in the mid restaurant tier. It's in that 3-star range. The food for me, what I had this evening going in for soup and salad was an 8. Like, the food was fantastic for a 3-star restaurant for me. And part of that is also, it was consistent. I go in, I get this salad exactly like I expect with as much cheese, freshly grated on top as I want, freshly ground black pepper. Here you go. Same thing with the soup. The gnocchi and chicken soup was fantastic with a little bit of fresh ground Parmesan or freshly grated Parmesan, fresh ground black pepper, and just a touch of salt. That was absolutely divine. Value-wise, absolutely a 9. So we're talking about a $12.99 meal in a 3-star restaurant. For me, that's fantastic. I can't get out of Taco Bell, a 1-star restaurant, for the same and be as full as I was for that price. The breadsticks, again, you get what you expect, which is high quality food for a very low price. Now, that being said, I didn't have one of their $25 meals. I don't know that the score would be anywhere near as high with a $25 meal. With the atmosphere, the ambiance, this is, again, it's that mid-tier. It makes sense. It's a 7. The service, I agree with you. The guy was good. He was not great. And that's where it gets really tricky too, is because in that mid-tier, what do you expect? You're tipping 20% on a $30 meal with wine. So you're giving the guy $5-6. And what do you expect for $5 or $6? I think he delivered with that, but it wasn't what you really want for that $5 or $6, which may have had me tip him $8 or $10, which is the fun and the sexy. And with that, I mean, if I brought a girl there, is he making her feel comfortable? I already feel comfortable, but if I'm there with a friend, is he making them feel comfortable? Or my kids, would he make them feel comfortable? And I don't know that our particular waiter would do that. I don't know that the 3 waiters I saw in our section would do that. So overall service for me, again, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. So it's a 6. Environment, again, 7. Would I take a first date there? Not if I'm trying to impress, but if I'm just going to meet someone, I actually would. Value-wise, it pays to go there, especially during lunch. Catch up with an old friend. It's a place you can go on a cold winter day, and there is no restaurant seat by the front door. They're smart about it. The only ones by the front door are those waiting to be seated or the hostess, so you don't go in like you do even in Ted Montana Grill and go get a seat not far from the front door, and every time someone comes in on a cold winter's day when it's 20 degrees outside, all of a sudden your steak went from warm to cold, and it's like it's over at that point. Meal ruined. I remember the little Italian place in Parker. That was exactly what happened. So overall for me, the restaurant was, because of value, which value has to be a 9. Again, the price was unbeatable. Overall, for a 3-star restaurant, this was an 8. Would I go there over Taco Bell? Yes. If I'm trying to impress or have a great meal, am I going there? No. But for overall, it was fun. Am I drinking this at Olive Garden? Nope. Yet. I think the one thing I would say is don't go looking for an impressive wine list, but you won't be disappointed if you're looking for a basic one.
Smarter Galactus.
All right, so Hitchcock, and with this, it was just watch a couple Hitchcock movies, study Hitchcock just a little bit, and what do you think? And Hitchcock was an interesting character in a time of movies where he started directing 20s and 30s with silent films, more in the romance or comedy line. Ultimately, his films did get sound. And then he transcends from this romantic comedy set of movies, which he only directed. He didn't write any of, I think, the first 12 to 15 movies he directed, or not that he wrote any of them, but he didn't produce them. And then he gets into the production business, produces and directs some of his movies in the mid to later portion of his career, and ultimately finishes it not producing, but just directing these films. The films he's most known for are from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and then of course you've got Vertigo, which often is considered his number 1 movie, and not American, but just Psycho, which is usually considered his number 2. A really long lineage of movies. The guy was born in 1899, died in 1980, so he's a little over 80 years old, 81 years old, was married for 59 years before his wife passed. What a great life, though. He had a pretty fantastic life and a very interesting one.
Yes, he definitely did have an interesting life.
This is where you come in.
I kind of figured that was my cue, but
you told me some interesting facts I did not know earlier, and I'm like, damn, son, no wonder the guy wrote Psycho. Or not wrote, directed Psycho.
All right, so a little bit more about his history here is that Alfred Hitchcock, when he was growing up, his mom used to have him stand at the foot of her bed.
That's so messed up, man.
And he would have to tell her all the bad things he did that day, and every sin that he did, she would lecture him on every single one of them. Every night he had to do that. And then once a month, his dad used to send him to the local police station with a note, and he would have to sit in the jail for a period of time, so that way he knows this is what bad people get. And that was his life for a while. And then after he got a little bit older, he went to a Jesuit school, and the priests there, and they had like a terrible reputation of being evil. And he got to experience it firsthand because he went to that school that he dreaded and that he would have to go to. And when he went there, these priests, if you screwed up, they wouldn't like punish you right away. They wait till the end of the day, so that way you have to sit through all the classes knowing your ass is going to get kicked at the very end.
Kneel now. Get ready. That's what you do at a pew, right? You kneel.
Right. So that's kind of like his that's his like youth. Then from there, he's like the youngest of all of his siblings, and he found out that his dad had passed away, and that just left his mother, and his other siblings basically abandoned the mother. They're like, we don't want to have anything to do with her, type of thing, and so it was left upon him to go ahead and kind of provide for his mom. And when he did that, he was like, he went to, I guess he was like a clerk or something like that. And he saw that Paramount Pictures was going to open up a studio and do filming in England. And when he did that, he actually, and this is like during the silent film era, and he was like a huge movie buff. And so he actually created his own like cue cards or whatever, like that you have for the silent movie theaters. And he submitted it to Paramount. And Paramount at the time, and he didn't know this, they were actually hiring. So they hired him, and that's how he got his foot into the movie industry. And from that point, he built up some he participated in writing some of the movies. He participated in a little bit of the directing, a little bit of the acting, a little bit of like doing the more cue cards and that type of stuff. So he really got his like foot in the door by making these cue cards, sending it to Paramount. Unbeknownst to him, they were hiring. He got hired, and then they just kind of, got him involved in all aspects of movie making with the lighting and all that other stuff as well. That's kind of the background I have right there.
Yeah, with his birth, again, born 1899 in London, so United Kingdom, passed in L.A. here in the United States of America. And one thing I just got to say is, different glasses produce different notes. Take the nose of this scotch from that glass. I have not drinking from it yet. Oh my God.
Oh. Wow, it's so much more perfumey.
It's amazing. It is profound. So, sorry, we're going to go on a few tangents during this trip. I'm sure we usually do. Known to have directed 52 feature films. Pretty dynamic. That's a lot of movies in a very fruitful life. Thinking about the stories you told really tells a lot about potential reasons why he was great at the movies he directed. Most of his movies, dude, there is a woman, and I'm going to all the details that you did some research on, but there is a woman that either undoes a man, whether he's the good guy or the bad guy, undoes a man. There's usually some sort of jail involved. He's like, Dad sent me to jail once a month when I was growing up. I got this. I know exactly how to paint that picture. But yeah, really the mom thing is just twisted. And then also he mentioned the rest of his kids abandoned her, the mom, and he's the one who set forth and did the honorable thing to take care of his mom. Not always the smart thing, but did an honorable thing to take care of his mom. I might have been one of the other kids who's like, yeah, Mom sent me at this end of her bed. I'm like, peace, Mom. Good luck.
And I don't think he actually stayed with her the whole time. I think that was up until he got into the movies, and then he moved to Hollywood. I think she stayed in London. But he had at that point, I think he had the money to like have someone watch over her, because when he was in Hollywood, he ended up getting a notification that his mom had died. So I think up until the point he actually joined or went to Hollywood, he did watch after her, but then he had the money to take care of her from afar.
Dude, I get it. So they had one child, he and his wife, who were married for almost 60 years, had one child. Pat is her name. Alfred Hitchcock was not a tall, muscular gentleman like some of them today. He was a standard 5'7" bald-headed man most of his life. And one thing he's known for, back in the day, in ultimately he's kind of Hollywood, 30s, 40s, 50s, as he wrapped up, I think, Psycho, which is his last well-known, at least, directed feature, was 1960, Vertigo 1958. But in those time periods when everyone else had maids or cooks or servants, he, with his wife, they changed their house layout so they had the open kitchen / dining room, and they had a bar and they had guests, and he would cook and prep and create the meal with his wife even when the guests were there. And I really have a lot of respect for that. I think it also tells quite the tale of he was looking for a partner. I understand the guy was a total a-hole in most cases, but with his wife, hopefully not the case, but nonetheless, he had a partner. He worked with her, and just like he did in the movies, he was the director, he was the producer a lot of times, and he did the same thing at home, even with guests and a meal. He directed and produced it.
Yeah, and he, with his wife, that was one of his major confidants, and she helped him out a lot with tossing ideas back and forth and being a soundboard for him as he was creating some of these movies. And I know in his when he was directing, there's notes here saying that he wasn't very sociable with the cast and stuff during the actual directing sessions. However, he did have a practical joke side to him, and he actually made a bet with one of his cameramen that he said oh, you can't stay here overnight, and I'll bet you a week's worth of wages. And so the cameraman's oh, heck yeah, I got this. And he ended up basically chaining himself up to the cameras so he wouldn't go home. And what Alfred Hitchcock did is gave him a cup of tea with a laxative in it. had bid him good night and left the studio.
Number 2. It's messed up.
It is messed up.
Kids, do not, for those of you youth watching this show, do not do that to your friends. We do not condone altering the
contents of a
get
drink.
It together body noises.
So since we're talking a little bit more about his personal life there, did you want to go somewhere else with that?
No, one thing I do also want to emphasize is he definitely had a love-hate relationship with food. And with cooking. And with that, though, one thing he could not stand was cold prepared meats. So we're talking about turkey or chicken or any of these other meats. When that got cold, he was done with it. Now, he would eat cold foods, but his meats, in particular his roasts or his roasted meals, often needed to be hot, fresh, prepared, and of course, I'm sure they were delicious. The guy was an artist.
Although you would not want to serve him eggs.
Yeah.
A statement from him. On breakfast, I'm frightened of eggs. Worse than frightened, they revolt me. That white round thing without any holes. Have you ever seen anything more revolting than an egg yolk breaking and spilling its yellow liquid? He did not like eggs.
Yeah. Now, I'll say he absolutely did when he filmed Psycho. But with that, that's the in. Now, the out. He was the first director-producer film that had a toilet in it. It's literally you had the first film that had a flushing toilet in it as a part of the picture. Psycho.
Really? I didn't know that.
And he actually, part of the whole body and in and out piece was the blood going down the drain in Psycho.
Okay. That makes sense. That kind of brings up that egg yolk.
It really does.
And while we're still on his personal life here, did you know his favorite movie is Smokey and the Bandit?
That's a pretty great movie.
It is. So it says here that he actually watched Smokey and the Bandit at least once a month, and that was actually the very last film that he watched before he died.
Mine would probably be closer to like Casino Royale or John Wick, but Smokey and the Bandit's good too.
I got all kinds of notes here. Like I did some research.
Yeah, no, it was for me, it was an interesting topic because at first I was like, okay, we're going to watch 2 movies, pick 2 movies, watch them. Let's talk about Hitchcock. And the more I watched of his movies, the more I learned to appreciate this gentleman who produced movies without any special effects. So the acting was acting, the scenes were scenes, the sets were sets, and it was fantastic. It actually made me respect his work so much more. And he is considered one of the most influential persons in all of cinema.
Yeah, he definitely is. And one of these sheets of paper, and I don't know which one it is, but there was a reason why he hired. Here it is. He preferred casting major established actors with whom the audience were familiar with, so that way he could actually spend more time and shift more of his focus on to concentrate on the plot and building the story. So I think there's a reason why, like when you see his like the actors in his movies,
Cary Grant,
3
times,
Grace Kelly, Ingrid Bergman. He had some like well-known actors and actresses playing for him during that time frame. And there's that movie 39 Steps, right? You were watching that the other day, and I made a comment to you about like, does all he do is hire blondes? And you're like, no. He hires
Bergman, brunette.
Yeah, he said that. And then I find this little factoid here is that he prefers to hire blonde actresses because blondes make the best victims. They're like virgin snow that shows up the bloody footprints. And he also frequently used close-up shots of women's hairstyles. And if you really do watch, like I know you and I watch I Confess together. Separately, we watch Dial M for Murder. And I know you watch 39 Steps. I watch part of 39 Steps. And he really does focus on the hairstyles of all of these actresses. And there was something I was going to say. With Dial M for Murder, he was one of the first directors with that movie to try to utilize 3D. And the audiences in 1950 were like, hell no, we don't like 3D. But really, like Hollywood had struggled with using 3D technology all the way up until Avatar, and that's when once Avatar came out, that's when like a lot of the audience started to accept more like 3D movies.
Meanwhile, Jaws 3D was awesome. Birds 3D was awesome. But you bring up some good points. So when he started directing silent movies, his first one came out in 1925. They're just that. They're silent, they're comedies, they're funny. Then you get into different pieces of his life, and you consider now he's becoming a more well-known director. Started receiving all sorts of credit for his work in the field, and you get to the point of, and I think there is some truth to this also because the films were black and white when he started, the blonde versus the brunette. And when you talk about like Grace Kelly and these others, and the blondes absolutely often played some sort of victim, even though in most cases they undid a man. Again, the man may have been the villain, he may have been the hero, but they usually undid a man. And the one case I went on this whole Hitchcock kick. I was having so much fun. The one that was the opposite of, as far as she was not so much a victim, even though in some ways you could say she was. Movies back then were different. Sean Connery, for example, what he did in James Bond movies nowadays would absolutely not be acceptable. Same thing with Hitchcock and his films. And Ingrid Bergman in Notorious, which is 1946, black and white again, was absolutely fantastic, but she's the brunette. So she doesn't play, as you mentioned, the white virgin snow. She plays someone who's Nazi criminal father has gone to prison, who is a drinker and drinks to pass out and has parties and is known for her debauchery, if you will. And she is selected by an agent to help them bring down another Nazi. Ultimately, she is a victim in many ways, but it's because of her own jealousy and the other roles' jealousy that comes front. But she's used as a tool to bring down the Nazis. And here you go again. But she was a drunk at one point, and she's often considered that. And, you know, can people change? Can they not change? Brunette.
Which movie was that one in?
Notorious.
Okay,
Yes.
I didn't get to see that one. I do know, like you mentioned, James Bond there. So here's another factoid here. This has to do with the Hitchcockian type of theory movies here, is that in North by Northwest, this is an early action film that has also been cited as the prototype of what became the James Bond franchise due to the suave, womanizing leading man. It uses multiple exotic locations and a sinister but charismatic villain. So he kind of developed that, and as a precursor for a lot of the James Bond movies.
Yes. Again, I think that you see it if you haven't, and particularly in North by Northwest, when you have the star running away, trying to escape across Europe, really is what it comes down to. That there are scenes with James Bond where he's literally running from helicopters, running from planes. We're talking about the 60s James Bonds all the way through the very last two.
Yeah, and we've talked about Psycho. Sorry, I'm not quite making the bridge here, but in any case, I do want to also mention this. When he filmed the movie Psycho, did you know it banned him from Walt Disney? He was not allowed to go to the Disney parks because of that filming.
That does not surprise me. He also, because of that, well, I don't know if it was because of that or it was another piece. Back in those days, any scene that involved kissing more than 3 seconds was considered scandalous. You couldn't have that in film. So he had a 3-minute kissing scene in one of his movies to be like, take it.
That's funny you mentioned that, because he also, in one of these pieces of papers I have around here, it mentions how he did battle against the uppers of the movie studios to push like some of these like censorship type things.
Yeah, he was actually, I don't know if using the term fan of sex for cinema is the right way to put it, but he absolutely understood that sex plays a role in cinema in every way, shape, and form. So for back then, it would be not just the male sex or the female sex, but sex in general, the two getting together. And it was also something where he didn't tiptoe around like most of the directors in those days. He walked the line, and he had women who were in love with priests. So I confess, almost undoing him, thinking she's doing good. Or as another case being Dial M for Murder. She had an affair with her husband, who finds out about it and wants to have her killed. So this is where it gets tricky. Who's right? Who's wrong?
Well, I think the husband's wrong for wanting to kill his wife. Like, just get the divorce already or whatever. And you know, like he is well. Like, if you were to ask, or if I were to ask you, or maybe we ask someone like out in the public, what is Hitchcock known for? Like, what kind of movies? I would imagine they would say suspense or thriller movies.
The master of suspense. That's what he was known as.
And really, and you mentioned like in his earlier years, it was like more like it was like the silent comedies and stuff like that. And it wasn't really until in 1929 when he filmed the movie Lodger,
Yes.
which was about the story about the London fog.
Yes.
And that's what really kind of kicked off that whole suspense thriller type of movies that he's been well known for. And up until that point, he like his first two movies that he created. One of them was called the something mountain. It has the word mountain in there. I forget the actual name of it. It's not in any of these papers that I have up here. But that is the most sought after movie by the Historical Film Society or whatever, because currently there's no prints available left of that. They're all gone.
Yes, and that is why he's accredited for 52, for having directed 52 major movies, even though they know there was at least a 53rd.
Okay. I didn't know they didn't count that.
They didn't.
Like, I guess like the only thing that's left are like still shots of that movie. And he's like, apparently he thought that movie was a horrible movie, so he's glad that there were no prints left on this earth that had that movie. But apparently that's one of the most sought after, or one of the top movies that they're looking for. And we did mention 39 Steps. And with 39 Steps, this is known as, it says two of his 1930 thrillers, 39 Steps and The Lady Vanishes, are ranked among the greatest British movies of the 20th century.
Yeah, two of the...
Yeah, and that not only did the 39 Steps is that up there with one of like the top movies from Britain in the 20th century, but 39 Steps also introduced the McGuffin, and that's part of the Hitchcockian like movie influence. And the McGuffin is like where it takes something and makes the plot revolve around it. So, for instance, like some of the more common themes that we might know as the McGuffin would be the One Ring from the Lord of the Rings. The One Ring is the subject that the plot moves and all the people move around. In Mission Impossible, it's the Rabbit's Foot for Mission Impossible 3. And then it's like the Lost Ark of the Covenant and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So that's all Hitchcockian influence right there in movies that we now watch today.
And 39 Steps was well done. The 39 Steps, much like the McCowan or the Dalmore, the 39 Steps was well done because it's, unless you know the story, they're trying to figure out how these Nazi war criminals are going to get stolen information out of the country from one country to another. And it starts in, of course, England, and it runs you through Scotland, and the scenery was absolutely beautiful. It makes me want to go there all that much more. But with that, the secret weapon, if you will, or the way they were going to get this information from one point to another, they introduce, as you mentioned, the MacGuffin at the beginning of the movie, as the main character is watching a show, and it's kind of a comedy show, but out comes the man who remembers at least 50 facts a day verbatim. And at the end of the movie, he gets shot and killed by the man who was having him memorize all of the stolen secrets and was going to take them as the way of transportation.
That's the importance of that guy. That's like the first, that's like the 10, 15 minutes I watched the whole movie.
What the hell's up with this idiot?
So a little bit more here, I think maybe if you're okay with it, introducing some more of the influences that he had with film and society here is that he's also, like, because you mentioned Jaws. So he is also the one who brought upon the dolly zoom. And the dolly zoom was actually first introduced in the movie Vertigo. And then Steven Spielberg brought it back in the movie Jaws. And so the dolly zoom is a technique whereby the camera moves closer or further from the subject while the zoom is simultaneously adjusted to keep the subject the same size in the frame as it zooms or zooms in or zooms out. So that was actually first done in Vertigo and it's been part of like movie making ever since. I also have a list of like 5 directors who are influenced by Hitchcock. Number 5, I don't know if you know. I'm sure you know this. Who this director is? I think his movies. And when I saw this name, I'm like, yeah. Like you watch his movies, you're like, yeah, they're just as messed up as like Hitchcock movies were in their day. And that's David Lynch.
Yeah. No shit.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, no shit, right?
That's a good one. I didn't like you think about it after the fact. I would not have thought of that without hearing it though.
Right. Like I didn't think about David Lynch either because I'm like, what directors would really truly influence? And the only one I thought of, and this is number 4 on the list, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, from The Sixth Sense on.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like you can see like Hitchcock influence all over in M. Night Shyamalan movies.
And can I point out one other way you see the influence, particularly with that director?
Sure.
So you mentioned The Lodger. I think it was 1926, 1920, so right around there.
Yeah.
Right in the late 1920s. In The Lodger, Hitchcock had the first of his cameo appearances, and then he followed through and played a cameo in Dial M for Murder. He's in the picture on the wall.
Right.
So he has a cameo appearance in all of his films, and M. Night did the same.
Yep.
And someone else who did the same, and I really respected it and appreciated it. And this is going to be a very short tangent, and I apologize, but I think this needs to be said, was Stan Lee.
Yeah, he did.
Stan Lee absolutely did that in all of his Marvel movies, and I was disappointed when I saw Wakanda Forever, and they had no representation that I was aware of. And if someone else has seen it and I did not, please let me know, of Stan Lee. And what I would have loved as a tribute, as a respect, as anything, is even if they were going and passing by some street and it was just some little Wally World or some like gift shop, they had a cardboard cutout of Stan Lee there. That would have made so much impact for me as far as a tribute to him. I think they should.
I'm surprised they didn't do that because I think like right after he died, they got like a body double to do like 1 or 2 movies.
Right, but I agree with you. Just put something out there, or even if it's like on a poster as you're driving by or something, just something that, and maybe it is in there. So maybe I just missed it. I only saw it the once. I actually thought the movie was great, but. Again, Stan Lee. So you got your 2 so far. Who else you got on that list?
Number 3, which I just mentioned, Steven Spielberg with Jaws is what's listed here.
Jaws, amazing. Again, I thought Jaws was fantastic in 3D.
Yeah, I thought so too. Next one here, and on top of my head, like I know the director's name, but I can't remember what movie he filmed. But Brian De Palma. We might need to pull out our phones here.
Brian De Palma movies.
Oh, that was much faster than me doing my have to like.
Oh, Dressed to Kill. Yep.
Yeah.
Passion. Body Double. Yep. Blowout. Carrie. Yep. Is that right? This can't all be right.
I don't know.
Saying here, if this is correct, he directed Scarface.
Oh, that's the name.
Carlito's Way.
Yep. That's
Mission Impossible.
Yes.
Carrie, he did do. Untouchables. Nicolas Cage, Snake Eyes. Blowout. Dressed to Kill. Yeah, those are all accurate. Body Double. By the way, Body Double and man, some of these movies, Dressed to Kill, crazy good movies. Definitely can see just that.
So Body Double, it does mention actually in here. Body Double is very similar to a lot of ways to Rear Window.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And I haven't seen Rear Window, so I couldn't really match that one there.
The one I will tell you is with Rear Window. The one thing I can't believe they did, even though I can believe they did, I just thought, as much as it was in some ways okay, in some ways it seemed wrong to me, is when they remade it with Christopher Reeve after he was crippled.
I don't know why I laughed there. Sorry.
Because it's messed up. Like, that's why you're laughing. It's like, how do you do that to the guy? Like, you're exploiting that? That's what hey, man, you were Superman. How do you feel about being in a remake of a Hitchcock movie where you got no legs?
And number
messed
one,
up.
yeah, it is messed up. And number one here is David Fincher. He did the movie Game with Michael Douglas.
I love that movie.
Yeah, that movie's so awesome. And then there's Panic Room, and another movie I totally love.
Panic Room is great.
Another movie I totally love, Seven.
Dude, Seven has got to be one of those movies that has had the greatest impact. One of the probably 30 movies that have had the greatest impact on my life, because it's a movie where you can't unsee it.
No, you can't unsee it, and that has like a whole lot of Hitchcockian stuff going on in there as well.
Twisted as F.
Yeah, it is, and that's that takes. I mean, I have a bunch of others, some other stuff, but I think that kind of sums it up pretty well right there with some of the influences that he's done. Is there any other avenues you want to go with Hitchcock?
I think some things that are just interesting, and I appreciated you bringing in his childhood trauma from his mother and father, because you see that in the movies.
I think you do.
In a lot of his movies, and this makes sense, right? World War I, World War II, the time he started directing in the 20s, finishes much later, but usually there are either Nazis as criminals or Germans as the bad guys. And that was absolutely true for the time. Obviously, not acceptable today because they make great beer, man.
Yeah, I think that might also have been his contribution to the war effort, though, because of his stature or whatever, his like a height, weight, or something. It's something about him physically or whatever. He was not allowed to join the British Army, so maybe this was a way for him to kind of like contribute to the war efforts or whatever.
Well, he definitely contributed to our lives in cinema. Highest respects go to him. He was knighted.
Yes, he was.
So it's Sir Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, we're Americans. We don't care.
I mean, I care. You gotta. Like,
I'm joking.
I know you are, but it's just interesting. When I think of that, it takes on a whole new light with the Queen's passing, right? Like, she knighted this guy.
Some people don't think she is the proper queen of England.
I'm not
anyways.
saying proper or not. I'm just saying, like, she also had a pretty great life. I don't want to do a freaking podcast on that, though. Don't you dare.
Next week's subject, Queen Elizabeth.
Your goats.
We're not doing Queen Elizabeth next.
But it was really fun to go through this Hitchcock piece, because I really appreciate the fact he wasn't doing this work with green screens. He did not have the technology we have today. I loved hearing from you that he used main actors knowing they would be studied, effective, and he could focus his efforts elsewhere. And I think that that's brilliant. And I think more of us need to, just in our daily lives and at work in particular, especially if you're a supervisor or a manager, consider are you using those right people for their roles and then letting them do their job. So you could get a Cary Grant in there and you could focus on them, and you would probably ruin the end result. These Hitchcock actors and actresses did dynamite work. And I know when we were watching a couple times, we were laughing because we're like, oh, come on, like, really? That's how you're going to react? And back then, that's probably how they really reacted. It was a whole different world, because now we have, so much more. We got.
I think we're so much more tainted now than they were back then. So
for sure.
But even though we are a little bit more tainted, and some of the stuff you're like, oh, come on, that's a little bit too innocent there or whatever, I still think it holds up pretty well over time.
I think it has held up. It was entertaining. And then one other thing I do want to mention that I really appreciated about all but one of the Hitchcock movies I watched, and I watched, as I mentioned, nearly 10, is that it was almost like he had some sort of clock ticking in the background, whereas you're watching the movie, you don't get to these points, and you've phased it really well when you mentioned when the transitions happen, the jump cuts. It was brilliant how Hitchcock did that, versus nowadays sometimes you have a jump cut and it's like 5 minutes later you finally get somewhere where you're interested again. It's like, what are you doing? And with Hitchcock, as you put it, as we were having this discussion, you put it pretty well when you said he left the right amount to the imagination, but more importantly, he had faith that his viewer was smart enough to connect the dots. And it reminds me of Hemingway, and I loved that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you watch his movies, I think he knows that his audience were either smart enough or had enough critical thinking skills to where they could connect the dots. Whereas a lot of times movies today, they have to spell it out for you. And so that's why you get these lulls in these movies. Like Hitchcock movies are like boom, 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 boom. And I think that kind of helps with the suspense and the thriller sense of the movies, because you're never left to like, you're not brought up and then you drop back down, and you're brought up and you drop back down. Here, it's like the way the pace is and the way the jump cuts happen, it kind of keeps the pressure and the kind of like the nerves going all the way through the jump cuts. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to point out one last thing, and then I'll finish on this with Hitchcock. I made the statement here that it holds up well over time. And the reason why I know it holds up over time is from something that you said. And this kind of is like a shout out to your son, Aiden. You said that you and your son, and like you and I watched a movie with Aiden, which is I confess, and it didn't look like he was paying any attention to the movie whatsoever.
Really didn't.
I mean, he wasn't even like facing towards the TV. But here's the thing. He talked to you about it. He talked to you about The Priest. And he talked to you about the other movies that you watched with him. Or I'm not sure if he was really watching, but looking away, watching.
I don't know. I saw the reflection of his phone is the only way I can.
But here's the thing. If you have someone who's like 16 years old and he has interest to talk about these Hitchcockian movies, that Hitchcock like wrote and directed and produced, which is like generations before him, it obviously holds up over time. I mean, he obviously was able to talk about it and ask questions about it. And so I think that's phenomenal. So that's a total shout out to Aiden, but it's also a total shout out to Hitchcock. And it's a shout out to you for even choosing this topic. So I'm just wrapping. That's my wrap up for this section of Hitchcock. You can put the final bow on that.
I just want to say thank you for joining me on this journey. Also inviting me on this long journey of the podcast, but joining me on this journey with Hitchcock, because I think as we continue to go through times, the world, I don't know about everyone else, man, the world has been almost too real for me the last several years, to the point where I worry for the first time in my life for my kids' long-term well-being. And with that, Hitchcock brought a little more reality into it and also made it okay. It reminded me that there was a World War I, there was a World War II, there are criminals, there are villains, there are good guys, there are angels and there are demons. But with all of that, there are psychos, right? With all of that, you got to have a little faith. Man, put your face down, dig in, do the grind, do the work, do the time. Have faith in yourself and those you are around, you trust, you love, and ultimately it'll be okay. So thank you for joining me on this journey, for sharing this wonderful, for me, Scotch.
It's phenomenal, nice Scotch. Phenomenal. I guess I'll say what the next week's topic will be. It's going to be the best of Kevin Costner.
Ooh, I'm going to have to watch some Yellowstone. I've never seen a single episode, but I hear it's amazing.
I never finished the first episode of the first season of Yellowstone, but there's plenty of other stuff that he has done that are great pieces of work as well. And I know, like, for those of you who are wondering, like, why I'm having going through some of these best of actors or movies or directors, I think right now, with everything that, as you mentioned, the world has gotten pretty real. I think we need to talk a little, I think we need to take a step back and talk a little bit about some lighter subjects and enjoy some of the things that, from our past or whatever, or, like that are current, that are a little bit more fun and a little bit more to, enjoy. But we will go back to some of these more serious topics here. I'm pretty sure about that.
Oh,
But that's the reason why I've continued this series of best ofs, and the Scotch for this upcoming week I think will be a good Scotch for it. But I'm not sure if it will hold up to this Alexander the Third.
I don't know. You never know.
You never do.
All right. You gonna announce this?
Oh, I thought you were. You're usually the Scotch guy.
All right. Well, Noah has selected for episode 91 the Glenmorangie Forest. And it's not just forest, it's a tale of the forest. And I think there's going to be a lot of research, a lot of fun with this one as well. This Glenmorangie, as we have talked about in the past, they cherish their water source. They protect it. It's literally kind of in the center of a forest. And they take great care of it. And I am super excited about this one because we've had some amazing trails through forests with Glenmorangie in the past.
And if you happen to watch this on Thanksgiving when this is going to drop, currently right now at Bevy's in Parker, it's on sale for $99. If you go to Total Wine and More and you show them the Bevy's price, they'll price match. I'm just letting you guys know this right now because I'm not sure how long it's going to be on sale for. Because right now you can get it for $10 less than what it is at $109. And I think I'm not sure if this is the second in the series. I know last year it was a Tale of Winter, which we haven't tried yet. So we might be going out of order here. But in any case, I thought this would be a fun one. I wanted something that would probably do Kevin Costner justice.
That's a great point. Some of his films, and we've got so many to watch, some of them do involve quite the scene of nature.
They do. And I think I'm going to say once again, my sign off here, as always. For those of you who watch us on YouTube, thank you very much. We appreciate you, your patronage here to us. If obviously YouTube has some rules here. So if with episode 80 to see the full one there, or if we do happen to ever get censored on another episode, you can always find those full episodes over on Rumble, as long as they don't also suspend us on anything, which I don't think they will because they're a little bit more lenient on some things. For those of you who watch us on Rumble, thank you very much. We do appreciate that as well. And then to all of our listeners who listen to us on any of the Audible formats, whether it be like Spotify or Pandora or Podbean or Google Podcasts, there's like a bunch of them. We thank you a lot for listening to us. You guys have made us in the last 3 months. These last 3 months have been our best months for listeners on the Audible side of things. So we greatly appreciate that. And we wish you all, whether you're here in America or you're anywhere else, this Thursday, we wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. And, life is great. Be thankful. Whatever, the things that you're thankful for, be thankful for them. Because, the universe or God or whatever you believe in, he, she, it, whatever, they're not going to give you more blessings if you're not grateful for what you already have. So, appreciate what you have so that way you can, I guess, fill your cup more and also give that gratitude out to other people. And with that, cheers, and I'll pass it along to you.
Great thing to mention. And I think I'm going to wrap up with a couple of quick things, and I apologize if this episode runs just a teeny bit long with all of my tangents. But first of all, you got to think about, for me, something I'm grateful for is my inspirations. And two of the biggest pieces of my life that inspire me to continue to hopefully be great, to do more, are my son and my daughter. So Mila and Aiden will forever be super grateful for you in my life. And then you got to think about some of the other things that have had dynamic impacts on your life. Some of them can be mixed bags. Some of them can be negative. Some of them can be positive. But with some of those positives, I got to give a shout out to my parents. And with that, Mom and Dad, should you ever watch this, I hope so, realize that when I do some of these episodes like Hitchcock, I am absolutely thinking about the things we have shared about Alfred Hitchcock in the past when we would watch The Birds together, Vertigo together. And this is 30, 40 years ago, right? So I was like this big. So maybe 30 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. So I really appreciate all of the things you guys shared with me, and I try not to take that for granted. That also transitions into like love, right? And so all of the things I've learned from people like Marissa, who have, much like Hitchcock, had his wife, who have shared so much with me, given me pieces. I think it's interesting because it's tough, right? She's given me things that I have absolutely used on this show. And it's how do you give someone like that the credit they deserve? You never can. And then I'm going to wrap up. My last one goes to you, Noah. And with this, you give me a lot of credit, and I appreciate that. I don't know that I deserve all of it. You gave me a lot of shout outs, is what I should say. But for you, one of the pieces, I don't think I say it enough. But I hope you know I have your back. And should anyone have ever say terrible things about you, they know I won't stand by that. I don't agree with that when they say something, whatever it may be. I have your back, and I hope you believe that and you trust that, because I know you have mine. I know that in my heart, and I value that so much, and that's why here at episode 90, Dalmore. The Dalmore, King Alexander III, is only just justified for this fantastic episode. 90 episodes in, man, 90 dinners and restaurants, 90 plus scotches, 90 plus topics, countless shout outs, countless get-togethers, all of the fun and experiences we have had. I cherish, I love, I appreciate, I value. A lot of those words mean the same thing depending on how a person looks at them, but I absolutely do, and I thank you.
I thank you. I mean, it's been a wonderful journey for, I think, both of us, and I love how we do these smarter challenges, because I think it helps us grow as people, and hopefully you listeners all feel the same way.
Yeah. Agreed.
And please like, share, and subscribe, by the way.
Yes. Remember, like, share, subscribe, drink responsibly. The big one there for us, because I drink and I am mostly responsible, is I don't drink and drive. So don't drink and drive. Drink responsibly. Life is great.
It really is great, isn't it?
It really is.
We drink and know things here. And if we don't know things, we're drinking and learning things here.
We drink well and know things. We better be learning. We paid for a college education with this Scotch. Oh my God.
This venture probably paid for someone's tuition.
Yeah. All right.
All right. I guess cheers.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, Noah.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Cheers.
No. Yeah, man.
Scotchman. Cheers. We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.